The passenger didn't just complain quietly, his voice cut through the cabin, sharp enough to make nearby travelers glance up. The flight hadn't even finished boarding, yet tension was already hanging in the air. A few people assumed this would be another routine delay argument. They were very wrong. As the plane doors closed, the complaint grew louder instead of fading. He pointed at his seat, then at the overhead bin, shaking his head like something unfair had happened. A flight attendant approached calmly, but his expression suggested he expected resistance, not help. Passengers began forming opinions fast. Some whispered that he was overreacting, others quietly wondered if something serious had gone wrong. Phones stayed down, but eyes stayed locked on the scene. The cabin felt unusually still, like everyone sensed something was about to shift. Then the crew member did something unexpected. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked around the cabin, scanning faces, almost as if she was measuring the moment. The complaining passenger paused, confused by the silence, and that pause changed everything. With a steady voice, she finally spoke, but not to him. She addressed the entire cabin, revealing one detail about the flight that no one else had been told yet. Instantly, the mood flipped, and suddenly, the complaint didn't sound unreasonable at all. The cabin felt tense as whispers spread, but the crew member didn't raise her voice. She did something unexpected. She quietly asked the passenger a single question that made him pause mid-complaint. Nearby travelers leaned in as the passenger hesitated, realizing the crew member wasn't challenging him. She was listening carefully, almost too calmly. That calm made the situation feel more serious than before. Instead of responding publicly, she invited him to step aside for a moment, and the plane went unusually silent. Everyone sensed this wasn't going to end the way they expected. As they spoke softly, the passenger's tone changed, and a few heads turned when he nodded slowly. Whatever she said clearly shifted something inside him. Then the crew member returned to the aisle and made an announcement that surprised the entire cabin, revealing a detail about the flight that explained everything and instantly changed how people saw the situation. The crew member didn't raise her voice or defend herself. Instead, she paused long enough for the silence to feel uncomfortable. That pause made people stop scrolling, stop whispering, stop judging. Something intentional was happening. She slowly looked around the cabin, not at the angry passenger, but at everyone else. A few passengers straightened in their seats. It felt less like an argument now and more like an assessment. Then she asked the passenger to repeat his concern, but this time, privately. He hesitated. That hesitation was small, but noticeable. A couple of people nearby exchanged glances, sensing the shift. As he spoke again, details changed. Not much, just enough to feel off. The crew member caught it instantly. Her calm expression didn't change, but her next move did. She quietly stepped aside and signaled another crew member with a subtle nod. No announcement, no explanation. But the cabin mood changed completely because now everyone knew this was no longer just a complaint. The cabin grew quiet as the crew member stood firmly beside the passenger, her voice calm but confident. She didn't raise her tone, she lowered it. And somehow, that made everyone listen. Even the complaining passenger paused, unsure why the situation suddenly felt different. She explained something no one expected. The delay wasn't random and it wasn't careless. There was a safety detail involved, one that protected every single person on board. The passenger frowned, realizing this wasn't the simple mistake he had assumed. Then came a small twist. Instead of dismissing the passenger, she thanked him for speaking up. That single sentence shifted the energy in the cabin. People exchanged looks, surprised by the respect shown in a tense moment. But the bigger surprise followed. The crew member offered a solution, not special treatment, but a clear, fair option that balanced safety and comfort. It was something no announcement had explained yet, and suddenly the frustration in the air began to soften. The passenger slowly sat back, his expression changing from anger to understanding. Around him, Other passengers relaxed too. What started as a complaint had turned into a moment of trust, and everyone sensed that the flight was about to take a very different turn. As the plane began its descent, the same passenger suddenly went quiet. His confidence drained when he noticed several crew members now standing nearby, not confrontational, just calmly alert. He realized the situation had shifted, and he was no longer controlling the narrative. The crew member who had taken charge returned one last time, speaking firmly but respectfully. She explained the consequences of continued disruption, not as a threat, but as a clear boundary. The cabin stayed silent, every passenger listening closely. Something unexpected happened, then the passenger nodded. No arguments, no complaints. For the first time, he followed instructions without resistance. The power struggle ended not with force, but with calm authority. After landing, as passengers stood to leave, several quietly thanked the crew member. One even said, "You handled that perfectly." She smiled politely, but her eyes showed focus. This wasn't about praise, it was about safety and dignity. As the plane emptied, the crew regrouped, professional as ever. Most passengers would never know how close the situation came to escalating, but they would remember the calm flight that followed. And the crew member? She went on to her next duty, proving that real control doesn't come from raising your voice. It comes from knowing exactly when to stand firm.